Throughout Utah, off-highway vehicle use has grown tremendously, and in Moab, with its magnificent landscape, it has become an epicenter for tens of thousands of OHV enthusiasts. Here in the state of Utah, you're required to complete an online education course and test to operate or even rent an OHV. That includes all types of off-highway vehicles, motorcycles, rock crawlers, UTVs, and all of the side-by-sides. In this video, we will cover multiple subjects from the state's OHV education course, but most importantly, explain why these are such important issues for everyone that enjoys off-highway vehicle recreation.
We are very privileged to have our public land system, and with that privilege comes responsibility and stewardship.
There's many places in the country you can wheel and you can Jeep, but there's very few places in the country that have the kind of terrain and traction and natural beauty that are all combined here in Moab.
Keep in mind, it is not an amusement park up here. It can be very dangerous. In the whole state of Utah, this is the #1 incidence for search and rescues.
Coming out prepared and planning ahead, knowing where you're going and having a map with you is critical. Don't travel alone. Make sure you inspect your vehicle before you go out and make sure it's suitable for the trail that you're going to be going on. Bring plenty of water, 1 gallon per person per day, and lots of food.
Cell coverage is very spotty up here. Let somebody know when you're going to be back and what you're doing.
Alcohol. In Utah, it is illegal for any occupant of an OHV to consume alcohol. In this challenging landscape, both driver and passengers need to be aware and always using their best judgment. Helmets. Some of Moab's best trails include challenging obstacles and dangerous drop-offs, and that's why Utah law requires anyone under 18 years old to wear a helmet. Helmets aren't required by law for adults, but they are definitely recommended and can save your life in a rollover. Kids under the age of 18 must obtain a youth OHV certificate to legally operate an off-highway vehicle. Search online for a youth OHV education program near you.
It's very important to stay on the trail or on the road. We have very unique biological soil crust, and any impact that we have on that creates these really long-term damages. And being very careful to let people pass in a way where you're not creating resource damage beyond the road is critical in an area like this. Don't make trails any wider than they already are. Remember that obstacles are part of the fun. Don't widen the trail by going around those obstacles. Travel slowly, obeying speed limits, and avoid high banking. Anytime that we are not driving directly in the middle of the trail, we're creating this phenomenon called high banking. So we're actually digging down where the road goes, and we have high banks on the sides. It really is a huge problem, and it causes permanent damage. Nobody wants to see fences out there, but in order for us to protect plant life, there's areas where we've had to install fences. If we can keep people on trail and on the roads, then we can keep these areas as natural as possible.
You have to be courteous. When you're going up some of those steep hills, you have to look ahead and see if anybody's coming down first, because you don't want to bunt in the middle, especially on some of these steep grades.
Be respectful for other people. You're driving, you come up on somebody, you slow way down, you don't dust them out. You know, use your hand signals. You tell them how many's behind you, and as you go on through, the last person that's behind you tells them that they're the last one, and that way they can continue on. You know, just learn to be courteous to each other. Just ride with respect.
When you come to the backcountry here in Moab, there's a handful of things we can certainly do to try to minimize our impact on the backcountry. One of the things is study the tread lightly principles. Those are very simple. You can find those online. As you drive down the trails, you'll look to the right, you look to the left, you see these little islands of vegetation. This is where all the backcountry animals live. This is their home. The deserts of southeast Utah are very fragile. We have something here called cryptobiotic soil. It basically glues the desert in place. And a single tire track will destroy it.
People come to Moab because it is such a beautiful place. Biocrusts are a part of maintaining that beauty. They're literally the glue that holds the place in place. And so when we see this damage in biological soil crust, what that means is the things that the biocrust usually do that we really depend on aren't happening anymore. We can see lots of dust getting produced in an area that gets disturbed. We can see a reduction in the plants after that biocrust is destroyed. I think a lot of what happens to biological soil crust happens because people just don't realize that it's not just dirt. It's important to stay on the trail so that we're not causing damage that isn't necessary. We want to get out in our Jeeps and on our ATVs and on our mountain bikes and hiking, but if we can stay on the trail and not widen that trail, we can have so much less effect on the ecosystem.
When it rains here in Moab, you'll see rock depressions fill with rainwater. These water potholes are home to amazing creatures like fairy shrimp and tadpole shrimp who literally come to life within hours after a rain. Their whole life cycle can be just a few days or weeks, or until the pool dries. So if you see a pothole along the trail, admire this amazing life, but stay out of the pothole, even if it's dry. The exception to this is if there is water right on the designated trail, drive through it. Going off trail to avoid the water widens the trail and causes more damage to the fragile landscape. When you see mud on the trail, a lot of people, I don't want to get my vehicle all muddy, so they're going to drive around that mud. That's not what we want to do. We want to drive through the mud, but we want to do it slowly. So when you see that water, drive through it, come out the other side, and enjoy your day. Here in Moab, we have designated wilderness areas. By definition, there is no motorized vehicles allowed within these wilderness areas. There's also private lands mixed in with our public lands, so be respectful of private property and obey the signs that you come across when you're out exploring. Stick to the designated routes, plan ahead, know where you're going before you head out. It's up to us to educate ourselves before we come to the area, learn the lay of the land, learn the rules, the regulations, the do's, the don'ts before you come out. Look at the weather conditions. Do your homework. And part of that homework is learning where your vehicle belongs. But know where you're heading and know that the trail that you're doing is appropriate for your vehicle. One of the best resources to help you stay on designated routes is to use BLM geo-referenced maps available from resources such as Gaia, Avenza, or Onyx, which are all free apps on the internet.
Anytime you're traveling in a natural area, you want to leave what you find, but also take out everything that you brought in with you. Things like human waste and all of your trash need to be packed out when you leave an area like this so that we can keep the pristine value of the land.
Even if you're driving by and you see somebody else's soda can that they left on the side of the trail, it'll take you 2 seconds to stop, pick it up, and throw it in your cooler. That way we can keep our trails clean and keep them beautiful for years to come.
There's nothing worse than to be out in the desert on a beautiful summer day to see the white flowers in bloom, but realize they're not white flowers. The white paper, yeah, it's usually toilet paper or even worse, baby wipes, and it's a big problem that's happening in the backcountry. We need to bring a Ziploc bag or a wag bag and pack all that stuff out. Our bacteria levels in the soils here are next to none, so things don't decompose like they do in the forest or in any other environment. If you bring it into the backcountry, please bring it out.
Utah is unique in that you can take these off-highway vehicles in through town and you can drive directly to trailheads. And in order for us to be able to continue to do that, it's important for us to be respectful, especially of the residents in town.
Here in Moab, we have a unique privilege of being able to drive our street legal UTVs out to the trails.
Not all states allow UTVs to travel on designated roadways and on paved roadways.
For your UTV to be street legal in Moab, you need a license plate, turn signals, rear view mirrors, an effective muffler, a driver's license, and insurance to operate as a street legal ATV.
Besides the equipment for a UTV to be street legal, it must have a DMV issued license plate from your home state and meet all Utah street legal requirements. If your home state does not issue license plates to UTVs, your vehicle cannot be street legal in Utah, and it must be trailered or towed to the trailheads. If your vehicle is not street legal, you also need to purchase a non-resident OHV permit.
UTV noises become an issue in Moab because the loudest UTVs going by disrupt the conversations you're having inside your homes. It's important to be extra courteous about driving through neighborhoods at night. Plan your trail rides so that you can avoid it.
I think an important thing that the UTV community can do to help and assist our community with the noise issue is to simply obey the speed limits as they're posted in our neighborhoods.
The loudest thing you can do on your UTV is accelerating hard. So in Moab, slow down, don't accelerate fast. Avoid residential neighborhoods, especially at night. Be respectful, be courteous, and be a good steward of our sport.
Respect. It goes a long way. There's the respect for Mother Nature, there's respect for the trails, there's respect for this magnificent beauty that we call Moab. There's also respect for the other users, mountain bikers, equestrians, hikers, all of the day use people that are here. Respect for each other, respect for them on the trail, and respect for the people of the community of Moab. But make sure when you're here, do the right thing. Educate yourself before you get here. What you bring to the trail, make sure you pack out of the trail. Everybody you encounter, treat them with kindness, dignity, and respect.